Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to explore fascinating sources and, well, pull out the most important bits of knowledge for you. Today we're getting into a really unique piece. It's a personal reflection called The Unthinking Mandate. And it really trying to uncover these hidden forces that shape how we think, often, without us even noticing. The author is Pablo E.M.G. He also goes by Pablo Mera or even Trompo. And his description of himself is great, isn't it? A stutterer, A+ blood, a rugby player who loved Metallica and Oasis. It's so specific. I think having that really personal angle makes the insights feel very relatable, almost like a friend sharing something deep.
Absolutely. And the core mission here, what we're really trying to unpack is this, well, maybe uncomfortable idea Pablo puts forward that our upbringing, our environment, it can act as a kind of subtle tyranny. He even calls it inherited intellectual chloroform, which is quite a phrase.
Chloroform, yeah, like it just puts your thinking to sleep.
Exactly. Not by force, but just by the atmosphere, the unexamined ideas we grew up with. So this deep dive, we're going to look at how simple phrases can become, well, he calls it a mental straitjacket. And, what actually happens when we dare to question those things.
Right, let's get into that. So the source just jumps right in. It says, "We've been utterly bamboozled by the prevailing commandments of our time." Strong words.
It's very strong.
And he doesn't see this as just like a passing trend. He calls it a generational affliction. Something woven from these well-worn platitudes. Those phrases you hear all the time. Stick to what you know, maybe.
Or don't rock the boat, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And Pablo's saying these aren't just harmless sayings. They're like invisible threads.
Right. Weaving that mental straitjacket he mentioned, they kind of channel how we see things, making other views seem almost impossible to consider.
So what do these invisible chains actually, sound like in practice?
Well, he gives some examples that I think will hit close to home for many. Things like, boys don't cry.
Okay.
Or, girls are this, girls are that. These really simplistic labels. And he argues this simplicity, it might seem harmless, but it's actually nothing short of devastating.
Devastating. Why devastating?
Because it's not just limiting thought. It's like brutally simplifying life itself. It denies people a whole range of feelings and experiences.
Okay, that makes sense. But then you wonder, why do we accept it if it's so limiting?
Well, he brings in some history here. He notes that, especially for earlier generations, it was, of course, far easier not to think. He talks about an era where certain questions were strictly verboten and obedience was the order of the day.
Right, so if questioning wasn't allowed or even punished?
Exactly. That historical weight, that inertia, it makes it really challenging, even today, to break free from these ingrained patterns we might not have even consciously chosen.
Which leads to this big question he raises, right? What happens when the chloroform wears off?
Yes. He describes this dreadful realization that can hit people. The thought, what if everything we've been told is a complete and utter lie?
Wow, that's a big moment.
A huge, often painful moment. And from there, he says, people tend to go down one of two paths. Some manage to reboot. They reevaluate everything, build a new understanding for themselves.
Okay, like a system update.
Sort of, but then there are others who, as he puts it, sadly remain trapped in an inescapable labyrinth of these inherited mandates. They end up clutching onto a life that isn't quite real.
Isn't quite real. That's chilling. And then he includes that quote from Mariano Jose de Lara. The heart of man needs to believe something, and it believes lies when it finds no truths to believe.
Powerful, isn't it?
It really is. But it makes you wonder, is there any upside to these inherited beliefs, maybe for keeping society together or just making things simpler, even if they aren't fully real?
That's a good question. The source doesn't really lean into potential benefits. It's more focused on the constraints.
Okay, so what does that lower quote suggest about why we might just accept things without questioning, or are we just desperate to believe something?
It certainly suggests a deep human need for belief, for certainty. And if genuine truths aren't readily available, or if seeking them is discouraged, well, maybe accepting the inherited lies feels easier, safer even. And building on that, the source then makes a really interesting, maybe surprising connection to mental health.
No, how so?
The author argues that mental health became just another taboo, another item on the endless list of tools used to manipulate us.
Manipulate us? That sounds quite deliberate.
Well, his argument is that in a system built around not thinking, not questioning, acknowledging complex feelings, feeling pain deeply, that becomes a problem. It's an inconvenience, perhaps, for a system that prefers simplicity and obedience.
So if you think, if you question, if you dare to feel pain, then as he says, well, you're just a bother, aren't you?
Exactly. That's the implication he draws.
So it's not just about what you think, but what you're allowed to feel and show.
Precisely. If feeling makes you a bother, then the incentive is to just numb yourself. Don't feel, don't think, don't make waves.
Which ties back to the whole don't think idea.
And this also connects to how he challenges traditional authority figures. He observes that we dutifully honored the philosophies of our elders because one simply must obey. You know, fathers, grandfathers, priests, professors.
That was the rule. Respect your elders, listen to authority.
Right. But then he makes this really sharp observation. He says, imagine if those same elders were alive today, if they had to face the dizzying complexity of this world.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have a clue where to begin.
Oof. That's quite a statement. Saying their wisdom might not apply anymore.
It highlights the potential danger of blind obedience, especially when the world changes so drastically. Inherited wisdom isn't always timeless.
And yet, despite all this complexity, this change, he says the record plays on repeat. Boys don't cry, girls are such and such.
Like these old mandates are just stuck on loop.
Passed down, generation after generation. That underlying command is still there, humming away. It makes you wonder how much we're still influenced by it without realizing.
And that leads to the question of coping. How do people deal with this pressure, this command not to think? Pablo observes a few different responses. Many just choose ignorance, tuning out anything that challenges what they've always believed.
Sticking your head in the sand.
Pretty much. Others try to numb the discomfort. He mentions drink and drugs and escape.
Right.
And then there are those who do think, who do question, but he says they often find themselves drowning in their own mental tempest.
Because it's hard. Or lonely.
Probably both. Struggling with the confusion, maybe the isolation, that comes from stepping outside the accepted way of thinking.
Because ultimately, as he says right at the end, the core message, the command, hasn't really changed. It's still just, don't think.
Yeah. So wrapping this up, the big takeaway from the Unthinking Mandate is really about that deep, often unseen power of the beliefs we inherit and the constant challenge, which is often uncomfortable, let's be honest, to actually question them. It really drives home that idea that knowledge isn't just about knowing facts. It's most valuable when we understand it and then actually apply it to how we live and think.
It definitely makes you reflect.
Yeah.
So thinking about everything we've just unpacked, what really stands out to you from this deep dive? And maybe for everyone listening, if that underlying command really is don't think, what's the most powerful act of rebellion you could take? How can you make sure you're living a life that feels, as Pablo put it, quite real?
Yeah.
Something to think about.